What is up, Sweatshoppers? The NBA season is finally upon us, and we have finally completed our top 25 player rankings. Clap it up, clap it up. Procrastination wins once again. A couple things. First, this video will be going over our entire top 25 player rankings, criteria, honorable mentions, and 25 through number 1. But what you may not know is we were actually initially intending releasing this top 25 player rankings as a series, and we actually released the honorable mentions, criteria, and 25th through 21st best player videos a few weeks ago. Now, as I said before, we're gonna go over everything again in this video, but we're gonna be a little bit more brief with the honorable mentions, 25th through 21st best player, and the criteria because, again, we've gone over it already. So if you want a more in-depth conversation on those topics, the link to both of those videos will be in the description. The second thing I want to emphasize is this list does take into account some projection just a little bit, so take that into account when you're dropping your hate comments down below. With that out of the way, like, subscribe, comment, and let's just get straight into the list. On to the actual list though, let's start off with our criteria. I feel like this is the main place where a lot of lists falter. They either don't have a criteria listed, their criteria is poorly explained, or it's just flat out dumb. The reason I started making these top 25 lists in the first place was because a year ago, around this time of year, I was watching another person's player rankings, a person I generally like, but in this specific video they were talking about how they didn't think Jimmy Butler was that good because he had no bag and played offense like a running back. Okay. And if he working over the players with moves on moves like he clocking in at Costco, why does his bag matter? It don't. So this list, it isn't made based on who's the best scorer, rebounder, defender, definitely not based on who has the deepest bag. It is simply based on this question. If you are the best player on my team, how much do I trust you to lead us to a championship? This criteria takes into account 3 things. Regular season performance, you gotta be able to lead us to the playoffs. Postseason performance, you gotta be able to lead us to a championship. And maybe most importantly, durability. Kawhi, LaMelo, Zion, I love y'all, but if I can't trust you to be at least on the court come playoffs time, then I can't rank you. It sounds complex and objective. Really, this whole list is just me trying to rationalize my gut feelings on certain players. So that's the criteria. Let's get into the rankings. 30 through 26 is our honorable mentions. 25 through 21 is the beginning of our list. Again, if you want more of our thoughts on each separate player, check out the previous 2 videos in the description. But if not, let's breeze through this real quick. Number 30, Jamal Murray, giving him the benefit of the doubt, but you can't stay in the top 25 if your main thing is you're a playoff riser and then you proceed to suck in the playoffs. I understand he was injured, but he gets injured quite a bit. 29, Pascal Siakam. 28, Domantas Sabonis. 27, Cat, the Big Purr. 26, Mr. The World is Flat but My Shot Ain't Irvin. 25, Tyrese Maxey. 24, Bamante Adebayo. I'm sorry, that was corny. Still the most underrated defender in the league. 23, Paolo Banchero. 5th most MVP votes this year. Mark it down. 22, De'Aaron Fox, and number 21, Mr. Dame Dollar himself. Okay, there it is. Love it or hate it. I hope your opinions aren't that strong already because I promise you, we just getting started. Let's get into the new players though. Pause, big pause. Starting with number 20, Mr. Tyrese Halliburton. Tyrese was getting hated on a lot last year's playoffs, and it was partly justified. There were times where TJ McConnell appeared to be more aggressive with his shot creation than Tyrese. Now, TJ ain't too shy to let that mid-range fly, but still, Reese, you're the face of the franchise. This can't be happening consistently. I don't want to absolve him of this. In fact, the main reason I only got him at 20 despite being the best player on the reigning Eastern Conference runner-up is because of his lack of consistent shot creation in the playoffs. But if anyone thinks he was straight up bad and does not belong on this list, I implore you to go back and actually watch the Bucks and Knicks series, because despite his lack of consistent shot aggression, Reese consistently made his presence felt on the court. I genuinely cannot remember the last time I saw a guard have such insane control over a game without making a ton of shots. Some of those games, especially the first few in the Bucks series, they were giving me like vintage Rajon Rondo vibes in terms of the orchestration. His playmaking was just too crisp. To become a true number 1 option, he's got to reach that perfect balance of scoring and passing. Similar to Paolo, he's still leaning a little too much to the latter for my own liking, but still, he is in my opinion the best perimeter playmaker in the league, emphasis on perimeter, and that is worth something. Number 19, Mr. Ice Tray. I will understand if I get a little bit of flack for this ranking specifically because people just don't like Trae Young's little ass for some reason. Probably the defense, actually. But I am still of the firm belief that Trae Young is a top 20 player in the league. He has reached the balance I spoke about in the Tyrese Halliburton section. To me, he has that perfect blend of scoring and playmaking that you have to have if you want to be one of the best offensive engines in the league, especially at his size. If you ask me to make a top 5 offense in the league, I can't say there are 10 or even 5 people I'm taking over Trae to lead it, but his only comparison defensively is Stephen Hawking right now. So gotta drop him quite a bit. Number 18, Mr. Wembanyama. I've seen enough. I know, we've all already seen enough. Wemby is a pretty good player. No, you don't understand me. I've seen enough. I have already penciled in 4 rings, 4 MVPs, and 5 Defensive Player of the Years for Mr. Victor in my mind, and no one can convince me otherwise. Wemby is going to break basketball, and not in the clickbait Mike Korzemba way, no. This dude is literally going to tear the fabric of the sport. He's already doing it. He has perennial all-stars passing up wide open layups literally just due to hearing his footsteps. He's 7'4" shooting step back threes, bro. Like, what the f***? If you want more of my thoughts on Wemby, click the link in the upper right hand corner, but I ain't got nothing more to say. Just know 18 is me being conservative. Number 17, Jaylen Brown. Eastern Conference Finals MVP, Finals MVP. Why isn't he higher? He's clearly top 10, brother.
Chill.
Listen, I am very happy Jaylen Brown had the type of year he had. I'm happy he's getting his flowers. I love his demeanor, his intelligence, the way he carries himself. He's generally one of my favorite players and people in the league, but he ain't no top 10 player. Get the f*** out of here. He is really good still, don't get me wrong. He's still an elite slasher, good shooter, really good defender, and has improved his playmaking quite a bit. Despite this improvement though, his passing vision is still lacking, his left hand is still and the playoff numbers from last year that are boosting him in a majority of people's eyes were a bit inflated because he doesn't get treated defensively like a number 1 option. If Brown was treated like a number 1 option, I do not like the same defensive looks that Tatum was getting last playoffs. I think the little babyface turn he's had over the past few months would not have been as successful. Still very good player, in my opinion, the best pure number 2 in the league. If he ever gets his own team and is surrounded by a really good supporting cast, I think he's capable enough to lead them on a good playoff run. Number 16, Ja Morant. Ja, can we put this nonsense behind us? Can we get back to hooping, please? Because Anthony Edwards took your spot. He's where you were supposed to be in the cultural zeitgeist. But no, instead of being the next MJ, your ass want to be the next Gilbert Arenas.
Are you serious, my brother?
Listen, Ja Morant has top 10 talent and should return to that conversation by the time the season really gets underway. But as I said in my explanation of the criteria, I gotta be able to trust the player to stay on the court, and we just haven't seen Ja in a minute. I gotta see him go 1 full season without him making a career-altering decision before I'm comfortable giving him the keys to my franchise. Number 15, Devin Booker. I do not like Devin Booker. Flatly. Everything the man does irks me to the nth degree. Oh, Luka special. They wouldn't even give me the faith of a true 1v1. Like, bro, just shut up. Please, just shut up. It would make me so happy to leave this man out of the top 15, but unfortunately, I gotta put my unbiased GM hat on and actually defend this man because he is getting a little too much hate than his on-court production deserves, in my opinion. Devin Booker is an extremely versatile shot creator, probably one of the 2 or 3 most well-rounded perimeter shot creators in the league. He's a good playmaker, even though that's not his best role. He's a decent defender. He fits on pretty much every roster. He's a playoff riser, and most importantly, we've seen him be the best player on a championship caliber team. It's hard to make a legitimate argument for him being in the top 10 like I had him last year, especially after so many people had better overall seasons as first options than he did as a second option. He's also just a scorer, not really great at anything else, and also it's impossible for me to take my bias against him completely out of the equation, but still, as far as pure shot creation goes, you're not gonna get much better than this. Number 14, Jimmy G Buckets, the person responsible for the creation of this series and really the creation of this channel. I've already spoken about this, but yeah, if you want someone that's gonna dazzle the crowd with their double in and out crossover step back half court 3, by all means go ahead, more power to you. For me though, I like this little obscure analytics stat called where is it? Oh yeah, winning. And if injuries were not a factor, there may not be 5 people in the league I want for that over Jimmy. Everywhere he goes turns from cookie cutter cotton candy soft to gladiators literally from the moment he steps off the airplane. And everywhere he leaves goes from playoff contenders to the Detroit Pistons in a heartbeat. Sorry, Detroit. His playmaking, his ugly but effective offensive game, his supreme versatility, his ability to efficiently get to his spots, and just his raw, unprotected will, pause, penetrating the psyche of his opponents, pause. The only thing that keeps Jimmy outside of the top 10 for me this year is he's pretty darn injury prone. He was hampered for part of the 2023 playoffs, which led to the Heat almost blowing a 3-0 lead in the Eastern Conference Finals. He straight up missed the postseason last year, which led to the Heat getting gentlemen swept in the first round. And he's dealt with a lot of lower body injuries pretty much ever since he tore his meniscus in Minnesota. If he has another year this year like he did last year, I'm gonna have to start giving him the Kawhi, Zion, LaMelo treatment. Number 13, Donovan Mitchell. Donovan moves up, I think, 5 spots from where I had him last year. I really like Spider's game. He's probably the best combination of slasher and shooter that we have in the league currently, and he's a solid playmaker on top of it. He's just a really fun player that's easy to like. So what's changed? Why the jump? My one, or really 2 issues with him before last season started was 1, his defense was comically bad. Prime Eddie Murphy, Chris Rock pre-slap hilarious. 2, he had back-to-back really poor playoff performances in 2022 and 2023. Last year though, his defense improved and he actually had a really good playoffs outside of some injuries. At this point, the only thing really holding him back for me is similar to Book. He's a great scorer, but not really great at anything else. Number 12, Anthony Davis. The Brow had himself a little bit of a renaissance year last season. Top 5 DPOY, all defensive first team, all NBA second team, one of the most efficient and consistent years of his career. And maybe most importantly, we can't call this man street clothes no more. The brother only missed 6 games. He's a cheat code, a problem, an anomaly. Put him on a team with 3 paraplegics and Trae Young as his teammates, and he'd probably carry them to an okay defense. But out of everyone on this list, this man is probably one of the 2 or 3 players who have to have another all-star level shot creator to effectively set them up on offense. And it's hard to have someone like that in the top 10. Yeah, he makes up for a lot on defense, but offense is worth more than defense at the end of the day. Number 11, Joel Embiid. When Joel Embiid is healthy, he's a top 5 player in the league. I mean, last year before he got injured, he was scoring at a better rate than prime Wilt Chamberlain. Encore. He's got the body of Orlando Shaq, the post moves of Hakeem Olajuwon, and the perimeter creation ability of an all-star level wing player, but he gets injured all the time. He gets injured so much that people actually believe he's a playoff choker, when the man really just isn't durable enough to reach the postseason fully healthy ever. The man literally came out and said, I don't think I'll ever be able to play back-to-backs again. He is an all-time great talent. There has never been anything like him to ever exist. But when I can only count on my star player to play a maximum of 69 games just so they can maybe be healthy for the playoffs, like, I don't know, y'all understand. This is a freezing cold take at this point. Let's just get into the top 10. Number 10, 9 and 8. KD, Steph, and Bron. Yes, I'm lumping these 3 together because frankly, all of them are in similar situations, and even more importantly, we've heard about all of them ad nauseum for a full generation. My analysis isn't going to add anything to what you think about these players. LeBron has literally been in the NBA longer than I've been fully conscious. Like, we don't need to talk about these guys anymore. They aren't what they once were. They're still pretty good. I will say, after the Olympics, if someone said 7-game series for your life, who you got, you can't fully convince me that these 3 guys wouldn't be in my top 5 picks, but that ignores regular season production and durability. At the end of the day, these guys are still all-time talents, still some of the best in the league in a vacuum. I just don't think their bodies will allow them to carry a championship team over the course of a full regular season and playoffs. Number 7, the Brunson burner. I fully understand and embrace the fact that this is going to be my hottest take of the video, but I do not care because frankly, I don't understand why this is a hot take at all. Over the last 3 years, Jalen Brunson has proven that when he's given number 1 option opportunities, he rises to the occasion. His last year in Dallas, in the 3 playoff games he played without Luka, he averaged 32 points per game. Small sample size? Okay, throw it out. His first year in the Big Apple as the 1A option of the Knicks, he averages 24 points per game and 6.1 assists on nearly nearly 60% true shooting. Ups the scoring average to 27.8 in the playoffs. That was the 5th most in 2022-23. Then last year, he matches the previous postseason's average for a full regular season, and then ups his averages in the playoffs again to 32.4 points per game and 7.5 assists. That 32.4 points per game mark is the 5th most of the last decade. This man is producing at an obscenely high level, and guess what? He's gonna be even better this season. Part of the reason I like Brunson's game is because it feels sustainable. When the playoffs roll around and players start to get more tired, the wear and tear of the long season starts to weigh shooters down a little more, that 3-point shot starts getting a little more difficult. Because of that, if you're an offensive engine, you have to be able to get to the mid-range and get a shot off. You have to be able to get to the rim and finish. Brunson can shoot. He's a really good shooter, actually. But in terms of operating inside the paint, a case can be made that he's one of the 2 or 3 best perimeter players in the league, and he was doing all that with a negative spacer at the center position. Switch that out for Karl Anthony Towns and tell me how much easier life is going to get for Jalen Brunson. The answer is quite. If Brunson being at 7 is the reason you dislike this video, I completely understand, but I will not be swayed. Barring injuries, the Knicks are going to the Eastern Conference Finals, and Brunson will finish top 4 in the MVP race, period. Number 6, Anthony Edwards. One could make the legitimate case that 2024 was the year of Anthony Edwards. Yeah, the right answer is probably the Celtics, but still, Ant's rise last year was meteoric. Everywhere you go, left and right, people was on their knees glazing this man like no other. Me included. I can't say I'm innocent in that either, but no one can say that it wasn't at least warranted. Ant was incredible last year. 26, 5 and 5 on excellent efficiency. Superb in the playoffs when he was the only consistent offensive option for the Timberwolves. Best player on a conference finalist, mid-range assassin, top 3 slasher, and the main thing that sets him apart from everyone else on this list, his defense. Anthony is the last of a dying breed. How many other perimeter players do you know that will give you work on both sides of the court like Ant can at an all-star, all-NBA level? Jaylen Brown? Maybe? That's about it. The fact that Anthony is such a great defender on top of him being an elite shot creator makes him a super valuable player. With this new playoff experience, Ant could rise even higher this coming season. Number 5, Jason Tatum, the best player on the reigning NBA champion. I don't know what more needs to be said about Jay Tatum. Prototypical forward, elite shooter and shot creator, good defender. His feel for the game has improved a lot this year, but a little bit streaky and absolutely zero aura. He's one of the best in the league for sure, never really injured too, which is really nice. He's just missing a little je ne sais quoi, you know? He's an elite player. Honestly, there's just 4 guys I prefer to him. Number 4, Shayvonte Alcian Gilgeous Alexander, the coldest brother in the NBA, and frankly, it's not close. I have never seen someone who wears a headband sweat less. That brother is unbothered by your best defender. What would Cole say?
Stretching the truth. No, I never stress in the booth. They feel the pressure, me, I feel like I just left them a masseuse. Effortless, how I'm skating on these records is proof.
That nigga was watching SGA tape while penning that verse for sure. Real talk though, the thing I love about Shay is he's on that upper tier of player where there is no real way to stop him outside of straight up double team. His mid-range operation, poetic, unstoppable. Sure, defenders can get a good shot contest, but SGA is so good that he don't even really need the shot to be open. He just need to get that shit up and it's probably gonna go in. Let me tell you, as a Thunder fan, the most comfortable I feel when watching games is when SGA releases the ball from his fingertips. I don't care if he's shooting that mess backwards. He gets the shot off, it's a good shot. And that ability to be able to get a decent shot pretty much anywhere at any time ties into the quality of SGA's. That's his actual superpower, his consistency. Sometime in the future, I'm gonna make a video where I measure NBA scorers' volatility to determine how reliable they are as a scorer. Yeah, you average in 25 points per game, but can we rely on you to consistently get to 25? Or are you alternating between hot hand and cold hand every other game? I have not started this video or even started compiling the data yet, but there is no doubt in my mind that when I do, Shay is going to be at the top of the list by a wide margin. SGA isn't just scoring 30. He's scoring 30 on good efficiency regardless of what the defender does. Doesn't matter the defensive scheme, the personnel, the coaching, the time of day, the amount of rest he got, if we playing in land, water, air, if we in space. SGA gonna drop you off regardless, and that's a quality we typically see out of big men, not combo guards. To me, he is the definitive best scorer in the league and a B to B plus in all other aspects of the game. Thank you, Eternally Clippers, for sending him our way. We greatly appreciate it. How's Paul George treating you? Oh, he's not on the team anymore. Never mind. And we got your pick. Yes, sir. Number 3, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Honestly, Giannis goes back and forth between number 2 and number 3 to me. On one side, he's the most dominant force in the league. He's been the best player on a fairly recent NBA champion. He's one of the best two-way players in the league. He's got the mentality you want out of a star player. Outside of shooting, he has a really well-rounded game in terms of playmaking, rebounding, guarding in the paint, and on the perimeter. He is awesome. Clearly, that's no new news to anyone. But similar to Jimmy Butler, he has been injured for 2 playoffs in a row now. That's got to be taken into account. Also, out of all the people in the top 11 and maybe the top 25, Giannis is the easiest to game plan for defensively. I mean, we've seen it for years. Build a wall. Since the Bucks messed up his shot and his only form of offense is I'm going to the hoop and you can't stop me, opposing teams have countered this by just throwing 3 brothers in the paint. And that's just a tough way to try and get consistent offense. And what's worse is to fix this, the man keeps trying to get a 3-point shot. Brother, no. You are almost 30. This is who you are. Get your ass down in the paint and hit him with some post moves. And not that weak ass post fade either. I'm talking 1-2 post hook every single time. If he can stay healthy and find another form of offensive creation outside of treating the defense like a set of bowling pins, he has a chance to reclaim his title as best player in the world. Right now though, he's got a little bit to work on. Number 2. Luka Doncic. Luka is the most skilled offensive player I have ever seen in my life, and maybe the most skilled offensive player of all time. Think of any offensive ability or skill, I promise you he's at least a B+ at it, and probably an A+. Finishing ability, mid-range, 3-point shooting, playmaking, post-game, ball handling, like bro. The offense is literally give him the ball and let him clock in. It's game time. All this while having the build of an offensive lineman. Imagine if he put in as much work in the weight room as he does on the hookah pipe. The only thing holding this brother back is he's the first streaky defender I've seen in a long time. Like, he'll have some games where he's a legitimate perimeter defender, and then he'll have others where he's escorting defenders directly to the hoop free of charge. Also, another thing holding him back, this is just a personal thing for me, man's a whiny dog. Not all the time, but sometimes it's unbearable. Game 3 of the NBA Finals was the worst behavior I've ever seen out of an NBA player in-game in my life. Like, that was the type of stuff you see in worst Karen compilations or something like that. Tighten the fuck up, brother, please. Number 1, in my opinion, the only non-negotiable spot on this list, Nikola Jokic. I don't know what else there is to say about Jokic, one of the best passers of all time, elite shooter, rebounder, best postgame in the league, solid defender, immovable object in the playoffs. I get to Jokic, y'all don't need my convincing or analysis. He's been the best player in the league by a wide margin over the past 2 seasons. I'm not exactly creating quantum theory here. It's Jokic. He's pretty good. Woo! That video is finally over. Here are my top 25 rankings. Again, this is just my opinion. If you disagree, that's cool. Leave it down in the comments below. Just let me know what you guys are thinking. Then yeah, that's all I got. If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. Comment down below what you think about our rankings, what you like, what you don't like. Share the video with a friend, and as always, stay sweaty, ladies and gentlemen. Peace.